Hey there, you looking kinda cute. Have you considered subscribing? Let's have some fun.
It was shaping up to be a normal, run-of-the-mill day for siblings Dennis and Kylie Stevens. As it was the middle of summer, they were spending their day lounging about their house while their parents were at work. As it was a rainy day, they were spending the day inside. Kylie strolled up to her older brother's room and poked her head inside. A loud boom of thunder rang throughout the house, causing Kylie to jump. Dennis didn't seem to notice it, since he had a pair of headphones on his head as he played a loud shooter game on his TV. Dennis' room was about what one would expect, relatively messy, with a pile of dirty clothes near the closet, some posters depicting sports stars, and sci-fi fantasy movies on the wall and a TV on one wall with the bed situated on the other, which is where Dennis was sitting. "Yes, eat it," Dennis exclaimed as he sat back and took his headphones off to scratch his ears. "Hey!" Kylie knocked on the door frame. "Hey, what's up?" Dennis turned around. "I was wondering, do you wanna maybe watch a movie together or something?" Kylie asked. "Maybe another time, I'm in the middle of an important part of the game, I've been trying to get here for weeks." Dennis put his headset back on, turning back to the video game. "Oh, okay." Kylie dejectedly walked back to her room. Kylie sat on her bed, idly scrolling through her phone messages, with several messages explaining how several of her friends were unavailable to hang out due to a variety of circumstances. Kylie sighed and laid back onto her bed. Just then, a loud crack of thunder boomed through the house, and the lights immediately turned off. Kylie sat up in bed just as the lights returned. "AW, damn it!" Dennis shouted from the other room. Kylie rushed out of her room and ran toward Dennis, where he was quickly emerging from the door. "Is something wrong? What happened?" Kylie asked. "The power went out right before I was about to finish the level," figures Dennis replied. "Maybe it's a sign that the universe doesn't want you to finish that level today. Well then, the universe can shove it, because once everything reboots, I'm doing it." Kylie just rolled her eyes and walked downstairs towards the kitchen. Several minutes later, as she was pouring herself a glass of soda, she heard Dennis shouting from the top of the stairs. "Kylie?" "Yeah?" Kylie shouted back. "Can you check the router for me? My game isn't connecting to the internet." Dennis shouted. "Got it," Kylie replied. Kylie headed into the family room, where the router was situated, and started to look at the router. While she was very adept with technology, when the router went out, it was usually Dennis' department, so she didn't know what to look for. She scrunched her face as she tried to figure out what was wrong with it. "Dennis, how many lights is the router supposed to have?" "4. "How many are there?" "None." After exhausting every troubleshooting method he knew, all of which failed, Dennis gave up and called their internet service provider, and once the 15-minute call was over, Dennis sighed and hung up the phone. "So? What happened?" Kylie asked. "Apparently the power surge from the storm fried the router. They have to send someone out to replace it." Dennis replied. "That doesn't sound too bad. They're not able to get someone out here until the hours of 1 and 3 tomorrow. That still doesn't sound so bad. It's just annoying. It means I can't play my game until then. You need the internet to play your game. I didn't hear you talking to anyone. It's one of those games that, even though I'm playing alone, it requires an internet connection to run. It's really dumb." "Oh no, you might actually have to do something other than sit in front of a TV. How dreadful." Kylie put her forearm on her forehead in mock concern. "I'm glad you find this all so amusing." Dennis walked away, heading for his room. Half an hour later, Dennis was bored out of his skull. His limited connection to the internet on his phone was useless because of their data cap, and the only video game he wanted to play was non-functioning. He considered his options and came to only one conclusion: he should go check in on Kylie. Surely she was just as bored as he was. "Hey." Dennis knocked on Kylie's doorframe, poking his head into her room. Kylie's room was similarly predictable. Kylie was a very girly girl, and so her room was very girly. Pink walls, a vanity with cosmetics and jewelry strewn about it, a closet overflowing with skirts and dresses and various different types of shoes. At this particular moment, Kylie was sitting on her bed, flipping through a magazine. "Hey." Kylie closed the magazine and sat up. "What's up? You said earlier that you wanted to watch a movie. I guess I'm free now," Dennis said. You're finally bored enough to want to hang out with me. Kylie smirked. No, well yeah, there's nothing to do. Kylie knew Dennis was right. As the rain continued to beat down on every window of the house, the siblings only had each other for entertainment. Let's watch it down in the living room. The TV is bigger. Kylie got up off her bed. Here, go set it up, I'll be right down. Kylie handed Dennis a DVD case for a film Dennis had heard of, an adaptation for a book that Dennis had never read, since it was geared towards girls, so it was never on his radar. Still, it beat doing nothing. Dennis headed downstairs to set the movie up, while Kylie grabbed some items off of her vanity, stuffing them into the pockets of her pink striped pajama bottoms. She quickly went downstairs and sat down on the couch, sitting on one armrest as Dennis took the other. Dennis started the movie, and the two began watching. For the most part, the movie was entertaining, certainly entertaining enough to warrant the awards that it had garnered. Halfway through the film, Kylie began to empty her pockets of a nail file, some cotton balls, and a bottle of bright pink nail polish. What's all that? Dennis asked as the noise took his attention away from the movie. Just some nail stuff. I was gonna give myself a pedicure. Neat. Dennis turned back to the movie. Soon, the movie was getting close to the denouement, and Dennis was invested in all the characters, so much so that he hadn't noticed that not only had Kylie finished her pedicure, but had moved from her seat on the couch to the floor, at least until Kylie grabbed his foot. Hey! Dennis pulled his foot back. What are you doing? Just looking, you know your nails are terrible. Kylie grabbed the foot back. Look how dirty these are, so what? I'm a guy, we don't worry about that. Dennis said. Maybe you should. Kylie sniffed, then made a disgusted face. How about I give you a pedicure? Just like mine. I think I'll pass. Dennis said. Come on, I'm bored, you're bored, besides, no one has to know. Who knows, you might even like it. Kylie insisted. The movie's almost over, unless you've got a better idea of what to do. Dennis frowned. He didn't have any better ideas, but doing such a girly activity was an affront to his masculinity. As he looked down at his sister giving him her best puppy dog eyes, he sighed and relaxed his foot. Why not? As long as nobody knows, right? Dennis mused. Right. Kylie smiled as she got to work. After several minutes of shaping and buffing, Kylie was satisfied and put down the nail file, only to pick up the bottle of pink polish that she'd used on her own toenails. She started to place cotton balls in between Dennis' toes, but Dennis once again pulled his foot back. No way! Dennis exclaimed. I don't mind the shaping, but I draw the line at nail polish. But it's part of the experience. Kylie insisted. Well, does it have to be pink? Dennis asked. Please? I don't want to go all the way back upstairs to find my clear coat. Besides, nobody'll see it, and I'll remove it later. Kylie started her puppy dog eyes once more. Okay, fine. Dennis threw up his hands in surrender. He'd lived with Kylie long enough to know it's better to placate her than to get into an argument. But no one will know, right? You have my word. Kylie said. As she painted her older brother's toes, Kylie grabbed her phone a few times, making it look like she was texting, but in reality, she was taking photos of Dennis and his shiny pink toes as he watched the end of the movie. With the movie finished, she moved on to his other foot, and as she finished the final brush stroke, she sat back and admired her work on her brother's newly groomed and polished toes. And there we go. Honestly, I gotta say, pink looks good on you, bro. Kylie giggled. Are you finally done? I know I agreed to let you paint my toenails, but what if Mom and Dad come home and see it? Dennis made nervous glances towards the front door. Relax, they're not due home for hours, and by the time they get home it'll be dry enough for you to wear socks. Kylie said, screwing the cap back on the bottle. Socks? You said you'd take it off when you were done. Dennis exclaimed. And ruin all my hard work right away. Come on. They're not going to be getting the truck out to fix the internet for at least a day. We'll be just as bored tomorrow, so I thought we could do something else. Ooh, maybe I could do your hair. Kylie started imagining other activities. Nah, I'm drawing the line there. I'm still not sure how you convinced me to do this. Dennis crossed his arms. Because it feels nice. Besides, it'd be a shame if these photos I took ended up online once the WIF comes back. Kylie turned her phone around, showing Dennis various photos that clearly showed him allowing Kylie to paint his toenails. I bet both my friends and yours would be very interested in seeing these. You wouldn't dare. Dennis attempted to reach for the phone. Are you willing to find out? Kylie stepped back. Gimme that. Dennis started to stand up, but Kylie pushed him back down. Bup. You don't want to smudge them, otherwise I have to start all over again. Now, I'm thinking that I probably won't send them to anyone if you do a few things for me. Kylie grinned evilly. Dennis didn't think that Kylie would actively do anything to hurt him, but then again, he couldn't really be sure. They were siblings, and he cared about her, but they weren't particularly close enough for Dennis to know how she'd act in this situation. He only had one option. Fine, you can do my hair. Tomorrow, Dennis said, firmly. Kylie smiled and started swiping through her camera roll. Of course I could probably send 1 or 2 pictures out with data if I really wanted to. Okay, you can do my hair now. Just keep those pictures to yourself. Dennis pleaded. Please. EA. And don't worry, tomorrow won't be that much worse. Oh, I wonder if we have a pair of heels in the house that'll fit you. Kylie started to skip towards the stairs. Coming, dear sister. Dennis held his head low with shame as he stood up and followed Kylie upstairs. As he entered Kylie's room, she motioned towards the chair in front of her vanity. Dennis complied and Kylie began to play with his hair. You've always had such great hair, I've always wanted to do something to it. Kylie said. Dennis' hair was, like Kylie's, long and blonde, but while Kylie had their mother's straight hair, Dennis had gotten their father's curly hair, so the longer it got, the more unruly it got, so he tended to keep it in a low ponytail. Kylie eagerly removed the hair tie and reached over to the vanity for her already plugged-in hair straightener, but Dennis quickly grabbed her wrist. Hold on, this is a lot more permanent than nail polish. Dennis said. Not really, if you wash your hair a few times it'll pretty much go back to normal. Kylie said. Besides, you don't really have a choice here. Dennis began to speak, but closed his mouth and scowled instead, releasing Kylie's wrist. Before grabbing the straightener, she popped over to her bed and picked up the magazine she'd been reading before, handing it to Dennis. Here, read this, it'll help keep your mind off it, and maybe you won't interrupt me as much. Remember, the faster I'm done, the faster this is all over. Kylie said. Dennis nodded and idly flipped through the magazine. There wasn't much of interest to him in it. Pages advertising perfumes, clothing, and shoes, a few articles, but even the pages with models on them didn't really hold his attention. Kylie continued to straighten and brush her brother's hair, making sure not to miss a single strand. Eventually, Dennis looked up at the mirror and gasped, seeing his curly locks were much longer when straightened, and his short ponytail had given way to hair that was far more similar to Kylie's than he'd have liked. Looks great, right? Kylie asked. Dennis was surprised at how big a change occurred from just straightening his hair. Truthfully, Dennis hadn't been endowed with much in the way of facial hair, a quirk of genetics, since their father's facial hair was perennially patchy as well. Before Kylie could do anything else, however, the siblings heard a car outside, and moments later, the front door opened. Kids! We're home, their mother shouted from downstairs. We picked up dinner on the way. I hope you're in the mood for pizza, their father shouted. Be right down, Kylie exclaimed, before handing Dennis back his hair tie. Here you go. Thanks, Dennis muttered as he pulled his hair back into its familiar ponytail. Meet you downstairs, don't forget socks. Kylie joked as she headed out of the room. Dennis headed back to his room and picked up a pair of socks that wouldn't reveal his painted toenails, and headed downstairs for dinner. As they ate, they discussed their days, with Dennis and Kylie omitting particular details of their day. The internet's out, a power surge fried the router, so the company is sending a truck out tomorrow to fix it. Dennis said, in between bites. Oh dear, how did you kids get along without the internet? Their mother joked. It wasn't easy, it was pretty boring. But Dennis and I watched a movie together. Kylie said. That's nice, I'm glad you're doing things together. Their mother replied. Yeah, I figured without the internet you'd be at each other's throats. Their father chuckled. Come on, Dad, We're mature enough to handle ourselves, right, Dennis? Kylie asked, winking at Dennis. All right. Dennis replied quickly. Satisfied with that answer, the conversation soon turned to the rough day at the office that their father had, before dinner concluded and everyone went their separate ways for the night. If either of their parents had noticed Dennis' hair, neither let on. Before turning in for the night, Dennis passed Kylie's room, spotting her digging through her closet. For what, Dennis didn't stick around to find out, but it didn't inspire him with confidence about what would happen the next morning. Dennis did make an attempt to find a bottle of nail polish remover, to at least remove the potential for further blackmail material, but it seemed that Kylie had already taken care of that, having anticipated Dennis' idea. As such, it took Dennis a long time to fall asleep as his mind raced, wondering just what Kylie had in store for him and just how he managed to get blackmailed by his younger sister. The next morning, Dennis stirred awake as he felt something touching his foot. He sat up and pulled his foot back, allowing Kylie to pull off one of his socks. Wakey wakey, sleepyhead. It's time to get ready for the day. Kylie sang. Mom just left, so it's time to play. Go away. Dennis, squinting his eyes, kicked his foot towards Kylie, but she artfully dodged him. Well, if that's how you want to be, I bet I can find a good use for these photos, Kylie giggled. Dennis' eyes shot open and he attempted to make a grab for Kylie's phone, but failed. No, don't. Dennis shouted, before sighing. What do you want me to do? I want you to take a shower. Use my shampoo and body wash. And my hair, unless you want to try your luck with a razor. Kylie said. Hold on, nail polish and hair straightening is one thing, but shaving my body? That's too far. Dennis said. Oh, relax, hair grows back. Besides, it's not like you've got that much leg hair anyway. Dennis rolled his eyes at that comment, much like his face. The combination of poor genetics and blonde coloring made it patchy at best. All right, fine. But can you promise you won't do anything else drastic? Dennis begged. I think that can be arranged. Kylie smiled. Now, Denise, it's time for your shower. I've left my robe in there. Once you're finished, meet me back in my room and I'll help you get dressed. Dennis did as he was told, going into the bathroom, where indeed, Kylie's pink terracloth robe was hanging prominently on the back of the door. He turned on the shower and stripped out of his clothes, his shiny pink toenails taunting him as a reminder of the fact that, at least until the internet came back, he was at Kylie's mercy. Well, let's get this over with. Dennis stepped into the shower. For the most part, the shower was fairly normal, just a different scent than his usual clean, fresh or sport soaps. In this case it was a flowery lilac scent. Using the depilatory was a new experience, but once he read the instructions, Dennis knew how to use it. What really concerned Dennis was Kylie's behavior. Sure, they were siblings and siblings do stuff to embarrass each other or mess with them, but he hadn't known Kylie to be as devious as she currently was. A prank is one thing, blackmail is out of character. Unfortunately, his ruminations were interrupted by a knock on the bathroom door. Hurry up, dear sister. I've got a big day planned. Kylie shouted. I'll be right out. Dennis shouted back. Dennis quickly finished up the shower and toweled off, shivering due to the lack of body hair combined with the cold linoleum floor of the bathroom. After drying off as best he could, Dennis put on the fluffy pink robe and opened the bathroom door, where Kylie was eagerly waiting. Don't worry, you're going to look great by the time I'm done. Kylie grabbed her brother's hand and dragged him into her room. Kylie started digging around in her drawers, purely for show. Dennis knew that she'd have already chosen what he'd be wearing by now. As Dennis waited, he shivered again, reminding him of his shaved body. Can you hurry it up? Dennis demanded. Ooh, someone's excited to wear my clothes, Kylie giggled. Here, put these on, I'll turn around.